The starship of the Celestian Empire landed on Earth with a soft hum. Its silver surface caught the sunlight and sparkled like diamonds. Inside, Princess Neri looked out the window at the blue sky and green trees. She had never seen a planet with so much color. "Princess, we have arrived," said her robot helper, Duri. "Your formal clothes are ready." Neri stood still as Duri dressed her in shining silver robes. The robot adjusted every fold perfectly. Neri had never dressed herself in her entire life. On her world, robots did all physical work. People like her only had to think and give orders. "Remember, Princess," Duri said, "Earth humans are different. They still use their hands for many tasks." Neri frowned. How strange. Are they not advanced enough for proper robots? "They have robots, but they choose to do many things themselves," Duri explained. After Duri finished with her hair, Neri walked toward the ship's exit. A group of Earth officials waited outside. She tried to look confident as the door opened. These humans were so primitive, but her father had sent her to make friends with them. As Neri stepped off the ship, a tall human man walked forward and bowed. "Welcome to Earth, Princess Neri. I am Jiho, your guide during your stay." Neri looked at him with interest. He wore a simple dark suit, not the floating light clothes her people wore. His black hair was cut short, and he had kind eyes. "Thank you for your welcome," she said. "I look forward to learning about your simple way of life." Jiho smiled, but Neri could tell he noticed her pause. She didn't care. Earth was far behind Celestian technology. These people probably still slept on beds instead of anti-gravity clouds. As they walked toward the waiting cars, Neri gasped as Jiho opened the door himself. "Where is your door-opening robot?" she asked. Jiho looked confused. "We don't have robots for simple tasks like opening doors. We do it ourselves." "You use your own hands for everything." Neri couldn't hide her shock. "Most things, yes. Is that different in your world?" Neri tried not to look disgusted. Celestians haven't used their hands for basic tasks in over 500 years. Our eyes and robots handle all physical needs. In the car, Neri watched with growing horror as Jiho pressed buttons to make the car move. They arrived at a large building where Neri would stay. "This is the International Diplomatic Center," Jiho explained. "You'll have your own room. There's a welcome dinner tonight with world leaders." Neri nodded, but she was worried. Her ship would return to orbit, and only Duri would stay with her. What if something happened to her robot helper? Inside her room, Neri relaxed as Duri unpacked her things. The room was nice but old-fashioned with actual physical furniture instead of programmable matter. "Princess, I must warn you," Duri said suddenly. "My systems are showing errors. The Earth's magnetic field is affecting my circuits." Neri felt panic rise in her chest. "Can you fix it?" "I will try, but I may need repairs soon," Duri said. 3 hours later, disaster struck. As Duri was helping Neri prepare for the dinner, the robot froze in place. Its eyes went dark. "Duri?" Neri poked the robot. Nothing happened. "Duri, wake up." Neri looked at herself in the mirror. Her hair was only half done. Her dress was not properly fastened. She had no idea how to finish getting ready. She had never done these things herself. With shaking hands, she pressed the emergency button Jiho had shown her. Minutes later, there was a knock at her door. "Princess Neri, it's Jiho. Is everything okay?" "No," Neri called out. "My helper robot has stopped working. I cannot get ready for the dinner." Jiho entered and saw the frozen robot and the half-dressed princess. "I can call a technician for your robot," he said, "but the dinner starts in 20 minutes. "Then I cannot attend," Neri said, trying to hide her fear. "I am unable to finish dressing or doing my hair." Jiho looked confused. "You can't dress yourself at all." Neri's face turned purple with embarrassment. "Of course not. No Celestian noble has dressed themselves in centuries. It would be like asking you to build your own spaceship. Understanding dawned on Jiho's face. I see. Would you accept help from a human instead of a robot? We have staff who can assist you. Nari wanted to say no. The thought of a primitive human touching her royal clothes seemed wrong, but the dinner was important for relations between Earth and her people. Very well, she said with as much dignity as she could manage. Soon, a kind woman named Mina arrived to help. As Mina fixed her hair and helped with her dress, Neri watched with curiosity. You do this every day? For yourself? Nari asked. Mina smiled. Yes, princess. Most humans dress themselves from childhood. Isn't it boring? A waste of your thinking time. Sometimes, Mina admitted, but there's satisfaction in doing things with your own hands. Don't Celestians ever make anything themselves? Nari had never thought of it that way. No, we only create with our minds. Robots build what we design. When Neri finally arrived at the dinner, late and flustered, she noticed something strange. The humans moved with confidence she lacked. They poured their own drinks and cut their own food without thinking. Watching Jiho easily handle his meal, Neri felt a new emotion. Was it shame? Or maybe envy? These humans might not have the most advanced technology, but they could survive without it. As the night continued, Neri made a decision. Maybe, just maybe, there were things these primitive humans could teach her after all. Neri woke up to a strange buzzing sound. The lights in her room flickered. Her bed, which normally adjusted to her body automatically, felt stiff and wrong. She sat up quickly and looked around. Duri, are you working now? She called out to her robot helper, but there was no answer. She pressed the communication button near her bed, but nothing happened. The screen on the wall stayed black. Something was very wrong. Neri stood up and tried to open the door. It wouldn't move. Without power, the automatic doors were stuck. She was trapped. Help, she called out, banging on the door with her fists. Is anyone there? After several minutes of shouting, she heard voices outside. Princess Nari, this is Jiho. The whole Celestian ship is having power problems. We need to get you out of there. The door is stuck. Nari called back. Stand back, Jiho said. We're going to open it manually. Nari didn't know what manually meant until she heard scraping sounds. The door slowly slid open a few inches, then a foot. Jiho's fingers appeared in the gap, pulling hard. Finally, the door opened enough for Nari to squeeze through. In the hallway, emergency lights cast a dim red glow. Several humans were helping other Celestians out of their rooms. What happened? Nari asked. We're not sure yet, Jiho said, but it looks like all your ship systems are down. Our security team thinks it might be sabotage. Sabotage? Who would do such a thing? We're investigating. But right now, we need to move you somewhere safe. The life support systems on the ship are failing. Nari followed Jiho through the dark corridors. Other Celestians looked just as confused and frightened as she felt. Without their technology, they were helpless. Outside, rain fell from dark clouds. Nari had never felt rain before. On her visits to other planets, she always had a force field to keep her dry. Now the water soaked into her night clothes, making her shiver. This way, Jiho said, leading her to a car. You'll stay at the human diplomatic housing until we fix your ship. The human building was simple compared to Celestian architecture. No floating furniture or color-changing walls. Everything was solid and fixed in place. Nari's temporary room had a bed that didn't adjust, lights that needed switches, and worst of all, a bathroom with manual controls. I don't understand how to use any of this, Nari admitted when Jiho showed her the room. What do you mean? He asked. How do I make the water come? Where are the cleaning beams? How do I adjust the temperature? Jiho tried not to smile. You turn these knobs for water. This one is hot. This one is cold. You use this soap to clean yourself. The towels are for drying off. Neri stared at him. You touch the water. With your hands. How else would you clean yourself? On our ships, we step into cleaning chambers. Beams remove dirt and apply fresh scents. We never touch water. Jiho seemed amazed. Princess, I'll have someone help you the first time. A female assistant, of course. Later that day, after a very confusing shower experience, Neri sat on her bed wrapped in a towel. A kind human woman named Suma had helped her wash her hair and showed her how to use soap. It was strange and uncomfortable, but Neri had managed. Now she faced a new challenge: getting dressed. Clothes were laid out on the bed, but they had buttons and zippers. Things she had never operated before. After several failed attempts, Neri finally got the shirt on, but it was backward. The pants were even harder. By the time Jiho knocked on her door for lunch, she was almost in tears. Come in, she called, giving up on the zipper. Jiho entered and stopped when he saw her struggle. Do you need help? These clothes hate me, Neri said, her face purple with frustration. Jiho called Suni again, who quickly helped Neri finish dressing. The princess felt like a child. At lunch, Neri watched with amazement as humans served themselves food. She had no idea how to use the serving spoons or pour drinks without spilling. Let me help, Jiho said, showing her how to hold the utensils. How do you learn all these physical skills? Neri asked. We start as children. By doing things ourselves, we learn how the world works. After lunch, Jiho took Neri to a meeting about the ship's sabotage. The Earth scientists were trying to understand the Celestian technology to fix it. The problem is in the main power core, an Earth engineer explained. But we don't understand how it works. To everyone's surprise, Neri spoke up. I can explain the theory behind it. The room fell silent as she walked to the board and began drawing complex equations. Though she couldn't fix the ship herself, Neri understood exactly how the technology worked. This is brilliant, the lead engineer said. How do you know all this? All Celestian nobles study science and mathematics from birth, Neri explained. We design the technology that our robots build. Jiho looked at her with new respect. You understand the theory perfectly, even if you've never built anything yourself. That evening, as Neri struggled to brush her own hair, she thought about Jiho's words. Celestians knew how things worked but couldn't do simple tasks. Humans could take care of themselves but didn't understand advanced science. A crash downstairs interrupted her thoughts. The power had gone out in the human building too. Neri heard people moving around calmly, lighting candles and flashlights. She went to the hallway and watched as humans quickly adapted. No one panicked. They simply found ways to work without power. Are you okay, princess? Jiho asked, coming up the stairs with a candle. Yes, I'm surprised everyone is so calm. Jiho smiled. Power outages happen sometimes. We're used to finding solutions. On my world, a technology failure would cause chaos, Neri admitted. We depend on it completely. As they stood in the candlelight, Neri realized something important. These humans weren't primitive. They were resilient. They could survive when technology failed. Could her people say the same? That night, by candlelight, Neri practiced buttoning and unbuttoning her shirt. It took many tries, but finally, she got it right. She felt a strange sense of pride. For the first time in her life, she had done something with her own hands. The morning sun peeked through the window as Neri woke up early. The power was still out in many parts of the diplomatic building. Instead of calling for help, she quietly sat up and reached for her clothes. I can do this, she whispered to herself. For the past 3 days, she had been watching humans carefully. How they dressed, how they ate, how they handled objects. Every night before sleep, she practiced buttoning shirts and tying shoelaces. Her fingers were clumsy, but she was determined to learn. Today she would try to dress herself completely without help. The shirt went on first. Buttons were still hard, but she managed to get most of them right. The pants were easier now. She only struggled a little with the zipper. Socks were strange things. Why did humans cover their feet with fabric? But she pulled them on anyway. Shoes were the hardest part. The laces kept coming undone. After 3 tries, she finally made a bow that stayed. Neri looked at herself in the mirror. Her clothes were wrinkled and her hair was messy, but she had done it all herself. She felt a strange warm feeling inside. Pride. Yes, that was it. She was proud of herself. A knock on the door startled her. "Princess, it's Jiho. Are you awake? Do you need help getting ready?" Neri quickly opened the door. Jiho's eyes widened when he saw her. "You dressed yourself?" he asked, clearly surprised. Neri's face turned slightly purple with embarrassment. "Yes. Please don't tell anyone. A princess should not struggle with simple things." "I won't tell," Jiho promised. "But why did you do it?" Neri looked down at her hands. "I don't want to be helpless. What if something happens and no one is there to help me? I should know how to take care of myself." Jiho smiled. "That's very wise. Would you like me to show you more skills?" That morning, Jiho taught Neri how to make a simple breakfast. She broke 2 eggs trying to crack them and burnt the toast, but the 3rd egg made it into the pan. When she finally took a bite of the food she had cooked herself, it tasted better than any meal prepared by her royal chefs. "It's not perfect," Jiho said, "but you made it yourself." "On my world, cooking is seen as beneath royalty," Neri admitted, "but there is something special about creating food with your own hands." Later that day, as they walked through the diplomatic building, alarms suddenly began ringing. Red lights flashed in the hallway. "Fire!" someone shouted. Smoke was coming from one of the rooms. People ran in different directions. Some grabbed fire extinguishers from the wall. Others helped guide people outside. Jiho started to lead Neri toward the exit, but she stopped when she saw an old man struggling to walk down the hallway. Without thinking, she ran to him. "Let me help you," she said, putting her arm around him for support. The man leaned on her as they moved toward the door. The smoke was getting thicker. Neri saw a fire extinguisher on the wall. She had watched a human use one yesterday during a small kitchen accident. "Jiho, get him outside. I will try to stop the fire." Before Jiho could stop her, Neri grabbed the red cylinder from the wall. It was heavier than she expected. She pulled the pin like she had seen the human do and aimed the nozzle at the base of the flames coming from her room. With shaking hands, she squeezed the handle. White foam shot out, covering the burning papers on a desk. She moved closer, continuing to spray until most of the fire was out. Other humans rushed in with more extinguishers to finish the job. Outside, Jiho found her sitting on a bench, staring at her hands. They were dirty with soot. "Princess, are you okay? That was dangerous." Neri looked up at him. "A week ago, I couldn't even dress myself. Today, I helped put out a fire." She showed him her dirty hands. "I never knew my hands could be useful." That afternoon, after everything calmed down, Jiho took Neri to a small room filled with art supplies. "What is this place?" she asked. "This is where diplomats come to relax. Some paint, some make pottery, some just read books." Neri picked up a paintbrush. "We have art on my world, but it's all made by machines following our mental designs. We think the design, and robots create it." "Try making something yourself," Jiho suggested, setting up a canvas for her. Neri dipped the brush in blue paint and made a stroke across the white canvas. It was uneven and messy. Nothing like the perfect art on her world. She tried again, adding more colors. Soon, she was lost in the process, enjoying the feeling of creating something with her own hands. 2 hours passed before she put down the brush. The painting was simple, the view of Earth from her ship, but it was entirely hers. Every brushstroke showed her choices, her mistakes, her learning. "It's beautiful," Jiho said, "different from machine-made art." "It's flawed," Neri replied, "but those flaws make it real." That evening, A message arrived from the Celestian Empire. The royal guards had discovered who sabotaged the ship. More importantly, Emperor Teho was sending a rescue delegation to retrieve his daughter. When Geo brought the news, Neri was sitting in the garden, feeling the grass with her bare hands. "Your father is sending ships," Geo said. "They will be here in 3 days. The saboteur has been caught, and they will bring equipment to fix your vessel." Instead of looking happy, Neri's face fell. "So soon? But I'm just beginning to learn things here. Don't you want to go home? Back to your luxury and comfort?" Neri looked at the dirt under her fingernails. "A week ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. Now, I'm not sure." She picked a small flower and twirled it between her fingers. "At home, I never touch anything real. Everything is done for me. Here, I've cooked food, made art, helped people. My hands have been useful for the first time." Jiho sat beside her. "What will you do?" Nari placed the flower behind her ear. "I don't know yet, but I want to learn more before I decide. Will you teach me to cook something new tomorrow?" "Of course," Jiho promised. As stars appeared in the sky, Nari made a silent promise to herself. Whether she returned home or stayed on Earth, she would never again be helpless. A true princess should be able to take care of herself, not just give orders to others. The sky turned a strange orange color that morning. Nari noticed it first when she opened her window. Something felt wrong. Earth's sun didn't usually look so angry. Scientists at the Earth Space Center were already worried. Their instruments had detected a massive solar storm heading toward Earth. It was bigger than any storm they had recorded before. "How bad is it?" Joe asked when he arrived at the emergency meeting. Nari sat beside him, listening carefully. "Very bad," said Dr. Kim, the head scientist. "The storm will hit in approximately 10 hours. Our satellites will be the first to go. Then power grids. Communications will fail." "What about protective measures?" another official asked. Dr. Kim shook his head. "Our current shields can only handle normal solar activity. This storm is at least 10 times stronger." Nari raised her hand. Everyone turned to look at her. "The Celestian ship," she said quietly. "It has shield technology designed to protect against solar radiation. It could help." "But your ship is damaged," Joe reminded her. "The main systems are damaged, yes. But the shield generators might still work if we can power them up," Nari explained. "They're designed to handle radiation much stronger than this storm." Dr. Kim looked interested. "Could we adapt your technology to protect Earth's facilities?" Nari bit her lip. "Maybe. I understand the theory behind the shields. I helped design some of the improvements myself." But what?" Joe asked. "I've never actually built anything," Nari admitted. "I only created the plans. Robots did all the physical work." The room fell silent. Then Joe spoke up. "But you've been learning to use your hands. And we have engineers who can build things. Together, we might have a chance." Dr. Kim nodded. "It's worth trying. What do you need, Princess?" For the next hour, Nari drew diagrams and wrote equations. She explained how the Celestian shields created a barrier that could deflect solar radiation. The Earth engineers listened carefully, asking questions about materials and power sources. "We'll need access to my ship," Nari said finally. "Some of the components can't be made with Earth technology." Soon they were at the damaged Celestian vessel. The ship was dark and silent without power. Nari led the team through the halls, using flashlights to see. "The shield generators are here," she said, pointing to a large room with complex machinery. "We need to take these components." "How do we remove them?" an engineer asked. Nari hesitated. She had never used tools before. Seeing her uncertainty, Jiho handed her a small device. "This is a laser cutter," he explained. "You just point and press here." Nari took the tool with shaking hands. She knew exactly where to cut. She had designed these systems, but using the tool herself was new. Slowly, she positioned the cutter and pressed the button. A thin beam of light cut through the metal, exactly where she intended. "I did it," she whispered, surprised. "Good job," Geo said. "Keep going." For the next several hours, humans and Celestians worked side by side. They removed key components from the ship and transported them to Earth's main satellite control center. There, they began building a makeshift shield generator that could protect Earth's vital systems. Neri worked harder than she ever had before. Her hands became dirty with grease and oil. She cut her finger once and was surprised to see her purple blood. A human put a bandage on it, and she kept working. 2 hours until the storm hits, Dr. Kim announced. Everyone moved faster. The shield design was coming together, but there was a problem. The power connection between the Celestian technology and Earth's systems wasn't stable. "It keeps overloading," an engineer said, after their third failed test. "The connection can't handle the power flow." Nari examined the connection point. On her world, robots would have fixed this instantly. But there were no robots to help now. She remembered something Jiho had taught her about human resourcefulness. "We need to stabilize the connection," she said. "What if we use a liquid conductor, something that can absorb the power spikes?" "Like a coolant system?" Dr. Kim asked. "Yes, but more flexible. Something that can adjust to the power fluctuations." They tried several Earth materials, but none worked well enough. Then Neri had an idea. "There's a special liquid in my ship's engine room. We use it for emergency repairs. It might work." Jiho and Neri raced back to the ship. The sky was getting darker as the storm approached. In the engine room, Neri found a small container of shimmering blue liquid. "This is it," she said. "Be careful. It's very valuable and rare." Back at the control center, they integrated the Celestian liquid into the connection. Neri's hands were steady now as she worked. She had learned so much in just a few days. 1 hour until impact, Dr. Kim announced. They ran the final test. The shield generator hummed to life. On the screens, they could see a thin blue barrier forming around Earth's atmosphere. "It's working," someone shouted. "Not quite," Neri said. "The shield is too weak. It won't last against the full storm." She studied the readings. "The power distribution isn't even. We need to manually adjust each node to match the storm's intensity." "That's impossible," Dr. Kim said. "There are over 50 nodes around the planet. We can't reach them all in time." "We can if we split up," Geo suggested, "teams at each major station." They quickly organized groups. Nari would stay at the main control center, guiding everyone through the adjustments. Jiho would lead a team at the secondary station. As the storm approached, Nari felt something new, not fear, but determination. On her world, she would have watched from safety as robots handled the danger. Here, she was in the middle of it, fighting to save lives. "The storm is hitting now," Dr. Kim shouted. The first wave of radiation slammed into the shield. The generators strained. Alarms blared. "Node 3 is failing," came a voice over the radio. "Increase the flow rate by 20%, Nari instructed calmly, "and rotate the polarity." Across the planet, humans followed her directions. The shield flickered but held. For 3 hours, they fought to keep the shield stable as the storm raged. Nari's voice grew hoarse from giving instructions. Her eyes burned from staring at screens. But she didn't stop. Finally, the storm began to weaken. The worst had passed. Around the room, exhausted faces broke into smiles. "We did it," Dr. Kim said, patting Nari's shoulder. "Your knowledge saved us." Nari looked at her hands. They were blistered and sore from working with tools. Her once perfect hair was messy. Her clothes were stained with oil. "Not just my knowledge," she said quietly. "My hands helped too." When Gio returned, he found Nari sitting alone, staring at the shield readings. "I'll help them," Nari said. She looked at her father. "Will you come with me? I want you to see something important." At the ship, human engineers were examining the damaged systems. They had tools and were already removing panels to access the inner workings. "These humans are touching Royal Celestian technology," the Emperor said, horrified. "Yes, and they're saving your ship," Nari pointed out. "Watch." For the next hour, Nari worked alongside the humans. She explained Celestian technology while they applied their practical skills. The Emperor watched in silence as his daughter connected wires, adjusted components, and even crawled under machinery to reach difficult spots. When the engines finally hummed back to life, the humans cheered. Nari's face was smudged with grease, but she was smiling. "See, Father, my knowledge and their skills. Together, we solved the problem." That evening, the Emperor sat with Earth's leaders. His attitude had changed. He listened more than he spoke. "My daughter has made me see things differently," he finally admitted. "Our technology is advanced, but our people have become dependent. We've lost important skills, and we could benefit from your scientific knowledge," Earth's president replied. Nari stepped forward. "I have a proposal, Father. Let me stay on Earth as ambassador. I can start an exchange program. Celestians coming to learn human self-sufficiency, and humans learning our advanced theories." The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. "You would stay here, away from your luxury." "I found something more valuable than luxury," Nari said. "I found capability, independence, the satisfaction of creating with my own hands." After much discussion, the Emperor agreed. A month later, the first group of Celestian students arrived on Earth. They were scientists, artists, and nobles who had never done anything for themselves. Nari met them at the landing pad. "Welcome to Earth. Today, you'll learn your first lesson." A young Celestian noble looked at her nervously. "What will we learn?" "Advanced Earth science." "No," Nari said, holding up a simple button-up shirt. "Today you'll learn to dress yourselves." The Celestians looked horrified, but Nari just smiled. "It seems simple, but it's the beginning of something important." In another building nearby, Joe was teaching human scientists about Celestian physics. The knowledge exchange had begun. That night, Nari stood on a balcony looking at the stars. She could see the lights of Celestian ships in orbit. Once, she had been a princess who couldn't dress herself. Now she was a teacher, a builder, a creator. "Any regrets?" Joe asked, joining her. Nari looked at her hands. They were no longer soft and perfect. They had cuts and calluses. They could build things, fix things, create things. "None," she said. "Sometimes real luxury is being able to do things for yourself." Above them, a shooting star crossed the sky. Nari knew it wasn't really a star, just space debris burning up in the atmosphere. She understood the science perfectly, but now she also understood the simple joy of watching it with her own eyes, standing on her own feet, living by her own hands.